We've talked about galamsey. We have talked about trade. We've talked about investments and so many other topics. Even at some point, we went from region to region to basically reintroduce every region to Ghanaians. So we went to Upper West, Upper East, Northern region, and so on and so forth. Because you know, if I ask somebody, where's Ankasa Forest Reserve, somebody might not know. If I ask someone, where do we have a certain type of animal, somebody might not know where that is in Ghana. Someone doesn't know where Molly Game Park is. And so on and so forth. So we traveled through the 10 regions and introduced them or reintroduced them to the people. We have also brought people to the studio from time to time and talked about a variety of topics. Mobile money. We have talked a bit about our constitution, the election of district, municipal, metropolitan chief executives. We've talked about that here. We have talked a whole variety of topics, but with one single purpose: what will make our country, Ghana, strong and all of its people prosperous. So 5 years we have been doing this. And what we're going to do today is to continue and do the final part in the series, part 4 of starting and running a business. Now, I also want to say that Ghana Great and Strong has been coming to you from different studios. We began from the studios of Hey Jolly online radio in Accra. And sometimes we'll do it at the Ahunka FM's studio in Elmina. Then we'll go to the ATV studio in Accra. We've done it from there. And where I'm sitting today, Ocean One TV studio in Elmina, or to be specific, Itre, Elmina. And sometimes also I have done this program depending on if I am traveling somewhere from London. I've done it from the US, from Washington, Chicago, here and there. So it's been a traveling show as well. So now 5 years has passed, and I am still your host. My name is Papa Kwesi Nduom, and we're continuing the series. But now let's do a little bit of a review of what we have talked about so far. First, we came up with a definition of entrepreneur, and there are many definitions out there, but the definition that we've used for this particular series is that an entrepreneur is a person who invests money in and organizes an operation to translate an idea into a marketable product or service in order to gain a financial return. That is the definition that we've used here. But also, part 1, we talked about failure. We talked about failure, and I said to you that failures do happen. Failures do happen. So if you're planning to get into a business, start a business, and run a business, you must know that failures do happen because challenges occur. We are human beings. Our environment keeps changing. So from time to time, there are difficulties, there are problems, and therefore failures do happen. And because failures do happen, we must think ahead, plan ahead. We must be strong enough so that when they show up, we're able to deal with them successfully. And depending on the source that we take the information from, some say a third of all businesses, some other people say 75% of all new businesses started fail in the first 2 years of operation. So if that is indeed the case, 1/3, 75%, it should tell us that indeed starting a business, there is nothing guaranteed about it. Running a business is nothing guaranteed about it, that it can fail. And as a result, you must know what exactly it is that you're going to try to do. And let's be clear, as someone has said already, failure is not the alternative to success. It is something to be avoided, surely, but it can be, it may be, and sometimes it is only a temporary setback. And those who overcome failure quite often or sometimes move on to something bigger, something better. But you see, everybody encounters failure at some point in their lives. What really matters is how you react to failure, what you learn from failure, and what you do to move on. That's what's important. But I also say to people, don't let failure become a habit, because when it becomes a habit, then nothing works. You definitely can't move ahead. You can't succeed. Failure becomes your clothes, your bed, your pillow, whatever. That does not work. We don't want that. And I've mentioned also in this program, I've started some companies and I've closed companies. If I close a company, it means it failed. If all of a sudden we stopped doing something, it means it failed. So it fails, well, you must move on. From time to time, I've said to some people, at some point in my life, I was living in the US, took a look at my debts, took a look at the things that I had. I had a car, nice, very nice car, and some other things. But when I took a look at the situation, I said, if I don't change from where I am, it's not possible for me to move ahead successfully. So what did I do? I sold virtually everything that I could sell. So my wife will tell you, had a nice, at that time they called it a VW Golf Champagne Edition. Sold it. Went and bought a very, very, very used Toyota station wagon. And sold off everything. We had a house. We sold the house, went to live in an apartment. You know, we just did everything so that we could start afresh. Then when we were fully strengthened, then we went not even to buy a new house, we went to build a new house. That was in the US. So sometimes you retreat, you gather your forces, and then you forge ahead. So failure is something that we've talked about here. It's important to consider. Consider that when you're looking, thinking, or considering starting running a business. So there are some people that we've also known, very well known in life, that I mentioned to you during the part 1 in the series, who encountered failure and then went on to huge success. Akio Morita, the founder of Sony, he is the one. He invented a device to cook rice, a rice cooker. Well, there was only one problem. That rice cooker kept burning the rice. So obviously, it didn't sell. It was a failure. But then he persisted and persisted and persisted in trying so many different things. Well, that's how come he latched on to and founded Sony. Huge success. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey, well, she was a newscaster. The television station somewhere in Baltimore, Maryland. And, well, she was told that she was too exuberant. You know, she had too much energy and was just too much for the TV station. So they let her go. Well, she took that enthusiasm, she took that exuberance and everything and started her own show. And now look at what she has become. Bill Gates of Microsoft. Well, Microsoft was not the first thing that he started. He started a company together with the man, Mr. Allen, who became his partner in Microsoft. They started a company to gather traffic data and process it and sell. Well, that company failed. But then they moved on. And look at where they are with Microsoft. Failure is there. How you react to it, that depends on where you go. And so I also asked the question to people. Well, what would you do if you started a business and it failed? What would have been your preparation? What would have been your fallback position? Well, then I moved on to part two. Part two in the series, we talked about, well, what sort of business would you be interested in or would be the right fit for you should you decide to get into to start a business. And that is when I ask people, well, what is your motivation? What is your motivation for getting into the business? Because that's important. Because you can't decide to get into something just because somebody else is doing it. If they are in your town or your corner of the city or in your village, there are 3 cocoa sellers and they seem to be doing well. You can't also say, Mami Efua sells cocoa, she does well, so I am also going to go and sell cocoa. But you can't. That's not a good enough reason. Perhaps the cocoa that you produce may be wonderful, maybe with some different ingredients. Maybe yours is wrapped up neatly, much more so than the other people. There has to be something special, different, that will motivate people to leave those people to come to you. So you also can't just say that I am hungry, so I will start a business. It doesn't work that way. And I say to people, starting a business, it must be something you are really interested in. Something you are really interested in. The minute a problem shows up, too difficult, it's too much of a problem. So it must be something that you have a personal interest in. But then it also has to be something that has a market. If there's no market, but you have a wonderful product, well, what's a wonderful product without a market? You can develop something that is so nice, so so good. You can't say that this drug it makes people high, it makes them happy, many people would like it, so I'm going to go sell that drug. But if it's an illegal drug, well, you can't. You might try it here and there, have some successes, but then it will get you into trouble. So whatever it is must be legal. Must be legal, and you must be able to find qualified people. If you start something in Ghana and that thing is so complicated and it requires all manner of skilled personnel that we don't have in Ghana, well, who's going to run it for you? Who's going to help you get it done? So there are reasons, and there are things that you need to consider. in looking at, well, what would be the right kind of business for you. And I also said to you during the part 2 in the series that be careful about government contracts and government in general. Government in general. Government in general on one side, because governments sometimes they tend to punish entrepreneurs. They tend to punish business people because somebody sitting somewhere don't understand how come somebody who may have been their junior, who may have been their classmate, who may have come from a village somewhere, would start a business and do better than they are. Sometimes it's because somebody belongs to a political party that is different from the one in power. So many different reasons. Sometimes government people, they tend to cut a business short. So you got to be careful about that. You got to keep that always at the back of your mind and figure what it is that you do when those kinds of challenges start coming. But the other side is that there are people who get into a business because they know someone in government or a new government has come, and so they're school feeding, so they'll push me there somewhere so that I can also provide food or provide uniform or provide something because I know somebody in government. Well, hey, governments come and go. So if it is not the quality of your product or your service, and you get a contract or you get into a new business of some sort because of that connection, well, when that connection goes away, the business might also tend to fold up or go away. So consider that. So that was part 2. Just summarizing a little bit here and there. Now part 3 in the series, we talked about the history. Our history of running businesses in Ghana. And the history, that is something that I have promised myself. I promised last week that I am going to sit down and write a little bit of this history so that people would also know some of the names that I have come to become aware of. Because we don't have the tendency of documenting what we do, our history. A lot of that history has been lost to us. But if you go back, well, one name that many people know is the name of George Grant, the one we call Pa Grant. He was a timber merchant. He did a number of other things. Many people don't know that he not only had offices in Ghana, in Dunko, in the eastern region somewhere, definitely in the western region, but that he also had offices in London, in Amsterdam, in the US. The man they call Pa Grant. So it's not just politics that we should know him. He was a business person, a successful business person. But then let me leave the question to be answered somebody else or at another time. What happened to his businesses? What happened? We need to learn some lessons. And then I mentioned the genesis of today what we call the Association of Ghanaian Industries, AGI. It started way back in the 1950s with people such as Dr. Nkulenu. People like they started those businesses, and then some other ones also started after independence, and so on and so forth. So I mentioned some of their names to you during that part 3 in the series. But let me run through some names. Well, I said there was a period, particularly in the 1970s, where a number of companies came up. There was International Tobacco attached to the name B.A. Mesa. There was J.K. Siam attached to the name Tata Brewery. There was Mark Kofi. There was Mr. Owusu Kowos Motors. And some other people. There was, every now and then somebody calls the name Boachi Mattress. Well, that man, he produced mattresses in Ghana, and so many others. But the big question is, what happened to those businesses? What happened? Because what used to be Tata Brewery now belongs to Guinness, I believe. So what happened? What happened to International Tobacco? It was sold, not by Mr. Mensah. What happened to all of those other companies that we had in the 1970s? That's a question for us Ghanaians to deal with. And then there were others. There were others that also showed up. And some are still there and are doing okay. Well, the late Nana Iwadako Ampim, one of those business people I've come to respect. He started Vanguard. Well, he had a company before then, a brokerage, insurance brokerage company. But then he founded Vanguard Insurance, and Vanguard has become a long-lasting, good company out there. Now there's a Vanguard Group because some of his children and other people have come together and are advancing the cause of that business, which is good to see. We have had some women be in business and have been doing well. There's not so old and older. We have heard about Dr. Nkulenu, but there have been other ones. There is Cecilia Kofi, together with her husband, Mr. Kofi Sam Kofi. They are the pair that make Domod what it is. There's Kate Kwate Papafio of Leroy Cables. If I'm still talking about pairs, there's Monica and Sydney Baita of Expert Travel. And I remember when I started coming back to Ghana, the name Continental Acceptances associated with the name Ambassador Afaridonko. And then we met people like Fred Owari. He was, I believe, with Securities Discount. He's now the Chief Executive of We Power Authority. And there's a lady of Manette, Teresa Opon Beku of Manette. She's done some good things. So there's a new breed. So there's the older ones, and once again the older ones like Alaji Asuma Banda. Then there's a newer breed. So entrepreneurship is moving. It is moving. Now we see groups of companies forming, such as what we have as Group Indo. And we've been in the business for more than 30 years. So entrepreneurship, we need to understand the history. We need to understand who was there, how they got there, who succeeded, who failed, and the reasons for success, the reasons for failure. Well, do we all have to be business owners before we can consider ourselves successful? I keep answering that question with absolutely not. There are wonderful people, great people who have worked for government, who have worked for companies, private companies, and have done very well in life and have been recognized and lived a fulfilled life, lived a very long life. You know what? Sometimes we don't understand. Business people, they face all manner of challenges, especially health challenges. Many business people have gone down to heart attacks, high blood pressure, which is hypertension, all sorts of other things. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to meet a payroll at the end of the month. But also, it is not everybody who is cut out to want to go and sell, because you have to be selling your business everywhere. Some people like to be sitting somewhere doing technical work and getting the right things done and deriving satisfaction from helping maybe discover a new product or come up with a new service and so on and so forth. And in this country, well, many people know the name Ishmael Yamson. Well, he was the CEO, chairman of the board of Unilever. He chaired so many different boards. He worked for a number of years, several years till retirement. There are other people too who have worked in government, men, women, and have done very well. So let's understand it. As I said earlier on, 30 or so percent, some say 75% of all new businesses fail within the first 2 years. So let's understand each other. That's a lesson that is learned, that it's not all of us that are cut out to be entrepreneurs or to start and run a business. And then another point to consider is that running a business, working somewhere is important. Quite often I hear government people, sometimes university people, they are telling our young men and women, oh, don't wait for a job. Go and start your own business. Go and become an entrepreneur. And I say, hey, really? Do you know how often someone like a Bill Gates shows up? Do you know how often? It's not an event that happens regularly. Bill Gates, yes, he started some things. He didn't complete his schooling. Yeah, he's one of the lucky ones. But let's not give the impression that the best thing for a young person to do is to go and start a business. So I worked for more than 15 years for not one, not two, not three. I worked for 4 different companies before I settled in with Touche Ross, which became Deloitte and Touche. And I worked to rise to the top of my profession as a partner at Deloitte and Touche in the US. And then throughout the conduct of that business, of being a management consultant and consulting for big, small, international companies, government entities, that's when some of the ideas came. So I didn't get up one day and say, I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Let me start Group Indo. No. I worked, and I worked, and I worked, and I worked for different companies. Blue Cross Blue Shield, a health insurance company. Northwestern Mutual Life, a life insurance company. Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, a government entity. And so on and so forth, before I got to Touche Ross, that became Deloitte and Touche. And then I worked in different cities in the US, different continents, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, before some of the ideas started to come. So understand that what we must do in Ghana is those of us who have had opportunity, those government people who are out there working, supposed to be working for us, let us work so we can create more jobs. We can create more jobs, that our companies can become bigger and offer more employment opportunities to the young people. And through those employment opportunities, some of them might get some bright ideas here and there. And that's what we need as a country. But we shouldn't just say, because we have not been able to create the jobs that are needed, let's push those young people to go out there and fend for themselves. Now, let me also go to shortcuts. I tell people shortcuts don't last. If you're doing something and getting a result and it looks too easy, what I'm telling you, if it looks too easy, it is too easy. If you're getting money and the money just comes just quick like that, well, the money can also go quick like that. and especially the things associated with some government contracts. They come sometimes big, quick, but they also go sometimes big, quick. So shortcuts, please. It's taken me a long time to get to where I am. It has taken many other people a very long time to be where they are. If you talk to a Warren Buffett, he started selling newspapers, selling different little things here and there before he hit on one good idea, another good idea, and look at where he is. It took him a long time, and the man is past 80 years old. And I tell people, your day doesn't end. The day does not end until the work is done and accounted for. So if you're not the person who wants to sit there at the end of the day, count all your pesewas, figure out where everything is, if you brought 10 tins of Milo, how many are left, how many did you sell? If you can't account for everything at the end of the day, every day, you're not going to have a successful business. It's an important thing that we must also do. And discipline is everything. Discipline in the way you dress, discipline in the way you talk, discipline in the relationship. I'm not just talking about with your friends. Discipline in your relationship with your employees or your helpers or whoever works with you. Because if you go about insulting your employees, one day they will decide, okay, it's your business, you do it. And they might make that decision when you are at your most vulnerable. And then you're out there high and dry. You've invested your money, but with no positive results. So it's important for us to consider a number of different things. And I've said it already. Failures happen, but don't make it a habit. Okay? But at the same time, success breeds success. Everybody wants to be associated with something successful or somebody who appears to be successful. But I'll tell you, we started a business in Liberia in the 1990s. It didn't work, in part because of the war. We started another one. It didn't work because, again, of the civil war in Liberia, and so on and so forth. But 3-4 years ago, we got an opportunity in Liberia, not because of something we had done in Liberia, but because of a reputation that had become associated with us in West Africa, other countries in West Africa, especially Ghana, in the US and elsewhere. We were led to an opportunity in Liberia, and then to another one, and then to another one. Success, it breeds success. So when you work hard and you get that one breakthrough and you keep working at it, it tends to bring something else. It's the same thing with being in employment. If you are a successful employee, successful anything, if you lay tiles and you are the best tile layer, if you are on television and you are the best presenter, what happens? Many people get to hear about you, and so some people come after you. I'll make you this better, or if I leave this TV station, come to this other one, and so on and so forth. So once you are known to be successful, well, many more things come. And I often talk to people. I say, think about your health. Every year, go and get a medical checkup. Every year. What is success if you don't have good health to enjoy it? If you've worked hard, you were a messenger, you studied, you became an officer, you studied, you did well, you become a supervisor or a manager, but then you reach a certain stage. Maybe you're able to buy a house, buy a car, but then your health is gone. what good is all of the struggle? So the same with owning a business. So while you are trying to climb, you must also take care of your health. It goes hand in hand. A successful person who is healthy, I'm not going to say that it brings more profits. No, it brings more enjoyment. It brings greater satisfaction. And you are able to do more when you are healthy. And, you know, I tell people, you don't know when and where your opportunity will appear. You don't know that. You don't know when someone will grab you and say, here, I have a job for you. Or when an idea might strike, and that is the one that will lead you to start your own business and be successful at it. Many people have heard of my own story about how I left the job in a government job and got recruited into Touche Ross, again, the one that became Deloitte and Touche. How did it happen? It happened because I went to use the men's room, the washroom. And I went to one of the washrooms on a different floor from where I worked in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the US. So in the washroom, there was a gentleman there who also had come to do whatever he did there. And I saw him, we started to chat, we started talking. I would ask him some questions, what does he do, how's life, and whatever else. Then when we were about to leave, he said, you know, you sound like somebody Touche Ross might want. I said, oh, you know, he said, Touche Ross. He said, yeah, Touche Ross, the accounting and management consulting firm. So I said, okay. So he set up the interview. So I went to one interview, a second interview, a third interview, and I joined Touche Ross by accident. But I struck a conversation with him, and I was ready for it. So you don't know when and where your opportunity might come. You have to be prepared. You have to be ready for it. And so opportunity, sometimes it doesn't just come and say, I'm here. You must recognize it. But when it says, I am here, and you don't take advantage of it, opportunity also tends to roam and find a home. And Ali Muhammad in Tichiman says, the lessons I've learned from this program of the past month tells me that in our country, our leaders have being politicians will frustrate you if you're not firm, and you should keep away from these dangerous politicians by paying your taxes. That's a wonderful advice. Pay your taxes always. That's from Ali Muhammad from Tichiman. There's another person who says, I'm a professional painter with many abilities based in Takwa. I'm into painting, the painting business with trained painters. I want to survive in this business in and out of the country, but I don't know how to advance my professionalism. You know, I like this because, you know, professional painters do well. And here in Ghana, anybody who gets a brush and get a roller says, I'm a painter. But when I see one with people dressed in a uniform with cloth to make sure that they don't put paint over all sorts of other furniture and other things, and there are things that you can do that people will consider you a professional. You get a job, you promise that the job will be done in 1 week, you finish it in 1 week. You get a job, it says it's going to cost 1,000 cedis, it gets done at 1,000 cedis, it's well done. You're on your way to becoming a professional. So it is the service you deliver, how you deliver it, that is what makes you a professional, and that is what also keeps you in business and doing well. And you know, someone says, well, it's a good program, I'm personally enjoying it, and that he's also trying to succeed. But he says, what many people fear in business is risk. And from your definition, you said it can be managed. But he says, how well? Well, entrepreneurs take a risk. Anybody who starts a business, you are taking a risk. Because as I said, many businesses started, a third of them or 75% of them failed in the first 2 years. So it's a risk. You manage the risk by knowing what you're getting into, by making sure it's something that you like, by getting good people to help work, paying them, and ensuring that you as the leader, the person, because one of the lessons, let me just say it now, is that starting and running a business, it depends on the leader. It depends on the person, the entrepreneur. You can't go and start something and then run off and go and sit somewhere and say, you people do it. Well, it's a new business. Who is going to bring the culture? Who is going to bring the discipline? Who is going to show people how to become, customer-centric, and so on and so forth? So it is what you do, how you lead. That is what tells you. It tells you how you'll be able to manage your risk. Might have some time for one or two phone calls. 020-156-5185. I hope I've given you the right telephone number. 020-75-66185. That is the number to call. We have time for one or two phone calls, and then we'll wrap this up this evening. And so I've again asked people. I've asked people, well, before I get to there, someone says he's a professional photographer. So how do I win clients since there are many photographers out there? Again, I'll give you an example. When I first came back to Ghana, there were people running around, auditors, accountants, management consultants. So what did we decide to do? At that time, many people had decided they wouldn't wear business suits in Ghana. So what did we do? We made sure that everybody wore business suit, nice black shoes, nice tie, white shirt, well distinguished, and it distinguished us from other people. That's one example. Well, I have a caller on the line. Good evening, Eric. Let's hear you.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
My question is, ladies man, everyone in Ghana knows that. I don't know why you are in politics aside with your business.
Okay, well, let me tell you why. I want to know why. Yes, I will tell you. Because, you do business to help yourself. My children, my family, and so on and so forth. But public service is something else. The business, when the profit comes, I can take a little bit of the profit and use it as charity to help some people here and there. But in government, in public service, if you do the right thing, you will help millions and millions of people. There's a difference. Of course, if it's a wrong leader, they will also make millions and millions suffer. So I believe that, and I've believed that I have something to offer if given the opportunity. There's another caller on the line. Good evening. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, you can go ahead and talk. Okay, well, I think we should move on. There's someone called Daniel. Daniel says he's a national service personnel, wants to get engaged in a business or an investment opportunity. Daniel, if you're national service personnel, I do hope that you're able to get a job, and so that you can learn the habit of employment and of serving, and so you can save a bit of your money, invest a bit of money, and then one day you get an idea, you can start a business. Hello? Yes, we've got a call on the line. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. From Canada.
Yes, go ahead. I'm listening.
I wanted to ask again to
Go ahead.
yeah, if you have some of your, I mean, incentives, I mean, during campaign to other parts of the country, I'm
having a difficulty hearing you. I really can't hear. Okay, so I'm sorry. We'll have to move on. Someone says he loves doing charity work. She runs an NGO. How does he or she make it work? And is charity the same as running a business? Well, look, if you're running a charity or an NGO, yes, you're using an entrepreneurial attitude to start something. So you have started something. So you must look at it in much the same way as if you were running a profit-making organization. Same principles. You must love the idea. You must be comfortable with it. You must know that it can fail. So you strengthen yourself, find good people, render excellent service, make sure you take care of government issues, and then you'll be okay. So you use the same principles and you'll be just fine. Someone just simply says, well, where can I find you? Well, I sometimes I'm looking for myself. You have an email address, you can find me and send me a message, and we can talk. Another person says, I'm a soldier, and unfortunately this is my first time of listening to this program. How do I start a business? George, we have talked about this a number of times. What we've discussed about before, we're going to compile it and make it available for people to listen, and we'll put them together. So the last caller on the line. Good evening. You are my last caller for this evening.
Hello. Thank you for your advice. And in fact, it is very, very inspiring. I'm a businessman, and now I'm fed up of buying and selling. I want to produce. I want to establish a factory that can transform our shea butter to either cooking oil or lazy tonic. So I need advice from you.
Well, first of all, it's a good idea of getting into, if you will, agri-business, production, transforming raw material, but you must also know what it's going to take. So you must study what it will take technically to get this thing done. So I'm not going to say go and do a business plan. You need to do an analysis of what it will require, what equipment you will need, how much money it will cost to get it, and how you will run it. But then most importantly also, how you will find a market for your product. I wish you luck. Continue with it, and hopefully it works, and it works well for you. Well, this is where we have to bring this program, the 4-part series, starting and running a business, to an end. This has been Ghana Great and Strong. We've been coming to you for 5 years now, every Saturday, starting with Hejole, online radio, Amka radio, ATV, television studios here at Ocean One Studios in Almena. Well, thank you for listening to all the many radio stations out there. Those of you who had been watching this program streaming live on the Ocean One Facebook, we thank you for watching. Everyone watching on television, appreciate your audience. This has been Ghana Great and Strong, and I have been your host. My name is Papa Kwesi Nduom.
Omako